Most people call 911 once in their life, maybe twice, and they spend years trying to forget it. But the dispatcher on the other end? They can't forget. They don't get to hang up and move on. They sit in a pale blue glow, headset on, and they listen, night after night. They hear things that don't make sense, things that follow them home long after their shift ends. These are 10 of the most disturbing calls ever recounted by 911 dispatchers, shared in online forums, in anonymous interviews, in hushed conversations between people who've heard too much. Let's get into it. She just needed to make it until morning. An elderly woman called just after 3 a.m. Calm, she said, "I don't know if this counts as an emergency, but something has been outside my window for 3 nights now. It's not moving. It's not making a sound. But it's waiting." A patrol car did a pass. Nothing. But the woman didn't want to hang up. So the dispatcher, just 2 years on the job, stayed with her. They talked about her garden, her late husband, the stars. At 5:30 a.m., the woman said, "It's gone." "How do you know?" the dispatcher asked. The feeling left, like when a cloud passes the sun, the shadow lifts. She thanked the dispatcher and hung up at 5:47 a.m. The dispatcher later said, "The scariest calls aren't always the loudest. Sometimes it's just someone in the dark, trying to make it until the sun comes up." The voice that wasn't in the car. A father called, frantic, stuck on an icy back road, almost no signal. He couldn't describe his location. No landmarks, no markers. Then a little girl's voice came on the line. "I clear as anything. Tell them to go past the big leaning tree, then left at the mailbox shaped like a fish." The responding deputy, who'd grown up in the area, knew exactly what she meant. He found the family within minutes. When the dispatcher mentioned that his daughter Emma's directions had saved them, the father went silent. "My daughter's name isn't Emma," he said, "and she was asleep the whole time." His daughter was in the back seat, 9 years old. Name was Claire. No one else was in the car. The dispatcher pulled the recording. The girl's voice was there, clear as anything. The call came from our own number. A veteran dispatcher picked up a call late one winter night. The caller ID showed his own dispatch center's number calling itself. He answered. Static, then a whisper. It said his name. The voice, he said, sounded like his father. His father had been gone for 6 years. He sat completely still for 11 seconds. Then the line went dead. It was notified. The anomaly was logged. No explanation was ever found. He never told anyone whose voice it sounded like until a retirement dinner years later. When he finally said it, the table went quiet. Then a colleague who'd been dispatching for 28 years looked up and said, "Mine called me too. Once. I always wondered if I was the only one, the address that doesn't exist." A woman called, lost, phone almost dead. She'd been driving for hours. Her GPS had stopped working. She gave an address. It didn't exist in the system. The dispatcher asked her to describe landmarks. She mentioned a water tower in the distance and slowly read out the name on it. And the dispatcher recognized it. That water tower had been demolished 4 years earlier. The town it marked had been abandoned for over a decade. The line went dead before they could get coordinates. Units found the road, found the field, found the old concrete foundation where the tower used to stand, found nothing else. The dispatcher said what haunted her wasn't the impossibility of it, it was the woman's voice. She wasn't panicked. She was confused. Like she was lost, the dispatcher said. Not just in place, but in time. He only called to say goodbye. Not every disturbing call is unexplained. Some are disturbing in a far more human way. An elderly man called the non-emergency line. Warm voice, calm. He said, "I'm not in danger. I just wanted to talk to someone before I go on a long trip. My wife passed 8 years ago. I just needed to say goodbye to someone who'd remember." The dispatcher stayed with him for 40 minutes. He talked about his wife, their house, their life. At the end, he said, "She would have liked you." 2 weeks later, telling a colleague about the call, the colleague went quiet. "He passed away," the colleague said, "the morning after that call, peacefully, in his sleep." She sat with that for a long time. "He called to say goodbye," she said. "I just didn't know to who. Something was breathing in her apartment." A decade-long dispatcher in a large city took a call from a woman who felt like someone had been in her apartment. Nothing taken, nothing visibly moved, just a feeling. Officers checked, nothing found. But that night, something about the call bothered the dispatcher. He pulled the recording. Midway through, while the woman was describing her living room, there was a sound in the background. Low, rhythmic, like breathing, but too slow, too deliberate. He had 2 colleagues listen. Both heard it. They ruled out interference from the call center. Whatever was producing that sound, it was on her end. In that apartment, standing close enough to the phone to be picked up on the recording. The woman had said she was alone. He made sure a wellness check was done. She was fine by then. She'd already moved. But that audio file? Still in the system. And at least 2 colleagues have refused to listen to it after hearing about it secondhand. She described the scene before we got there. A retired dispatcher, 22 years on the job, called this the one that never left her. A woman called in, decomposed. She gave an address and described exactly where responders should park, the layout of the building, and what they would find inside. Every detail was accurate, including specifics that hadn't been released to anyone. When officers arrived, the woman was there. She'd been there all night. No cell signal at that location. The landline was down. When asked how she'd known what to say, the woman looked genuinely confused. "I didn't call anyone," she said. "My phone died hours ago." The call records confirmed an incoming call, a real one. No one has ever determined who made it. He called from his own funeral. A dispatcher in a small southern town received a call from a man who gave his name and address calmly. He said he thought someone was inside his house, that he'd been hearing them since he got home. Since he came back, he said. She ran his name through the system as routine. It came back flagged. The man with that name at that address had died 11 days earlier. His funeral had been 4 days ago. She kept talking to him, professionally, calmly. She asked if he was all right. He said, "I'm not sure. I feel like I'm not supposed to be here." A deputy arrived to find the house dark and locked. But through the window, the lights were on, then they weren't. The call originated from a disconnected number. The family confirmed he was gone. Some things don't have an answer, and some answers you don't want. The boy who changed windows. A Midwest dispatcher received a call from a boy, maybe 7 or 8, whispering. Not the curious kind of whispering, the careful kind. He gave his name, his full address, yes, including the zip code. Then he said, "My mom is asleep and I can't wake her, but that's not why I'm calling." He was calling about a man in the yard, standing still, not moving. The dispatcher asked, "How do you know he's watching if he isn't moving?" The boy said, "Because every time I go to a different window, he turns." Officers found the mother asleep. She was fine, just exhausted. They searched the yard. No footprints in the soft soil, no signs of anyone. When they asked the boy where the man had been standing, he pointed to the far edge of the property. Right where the flashlights didn't reach, she said the footsteps were behind me. A night shift dispatcher in rural Oregon shared this on a first responder forum. Around 2 a.m., a woman called from a rest stop, calm, almost too calm. She said another car had been parked across the lot since she arrived. Nobody had gotten out. Then her voice dropped. "Can you hear that? Footsteps. On gravel." The dispatcher listened. Nothing. "It stopped," the woman said. but it sounded like they were behind you. Not me. Behind you. The dispatcher checked over her shoulder 3 times before that call ended. Officers arrived. The other car was empty. The woman was fine, but the dispatcher requested a transfer to day shifts shortly after. When asked why, she said only, "I don't like quiet nights anymore. Some calls get filed, logged, forgotten by morning, and some calls stay in the back of a quiet mind, surfacing at 2 a.m. when the house settles and something moves outside." If you're watching this at night, take a second. Just listen to whatever's around you. Sometimes silence is just silence, and sometimes it isn't. Drop a comment with the story that got to you most. Subscribe if you want more. And tonight, sleep with the light on.